All right, welcome back to the Michael Volpe Investigates podcast that I call The Impromptu. And I'm here with Marta Bryceland and her sister, Anna. And Marta, we're going to talk about a child custody case that you've been involved in. I think it's, you live near Rochester, is that right?
I live near Manhattan.
Near Manhattan. I wasn't even close. And then before we get started, there's, I don't know if they call it a protective order, but there's something similar to a protective order in your case. You are allowed to say certain things, not other things, but normally it'd have a lot more like transcripts and other things. So if you don't see those up, it's because there's a protective order, like it's way too complex. All right, so you never married the father of your child, right? But, and I'm gonna get a photo of him up on the screen. One of the two of you, if you want to take this, how would you describe the relationship between Marta and I'm going to get him up. His name is Dr. Thomas Gutt. So why don't one of you two start by just describing how you remember the relationship being?
You want to Anya?
Yeah, so their relationship, so before they were boyfriend and girlfriend, they had a daughter who was then 8 years old. They had a relationship that started well, then it turned into an abusive relationship, and there was incident choking Marta in the past, and then the relationship ended. Marta had a full custody of Natalia as the arrangement they made among each other, and he had visitations. However, after Marta filed for increase of the child support, their relationship went completely horrible, and all the terrible things started.
All right. Before you go on, you're getting into a part that I wanted to show. Marta hired a private investigator, a guy who's very well respected. And so what you're going to describe, what you just started, he did a report. So I'm going to scroll that report on the screen. So go ahead. Keep going.
So she then the relationship became very toxic and sick, and he has managed to steal Natalia, the daughter, from the mother by using his power, probably the doctor's card, and trying to make Marta look mentally ill. And based on that, he managed to get the child out of her house, even though there was no incident of any abuse, alcohol, drugs, crime, nothing. She's a well-respected, hardworking, educated woman. However, he managed to claim that she has bipolar, borderline personality disorder, and lastly, Manchester by proxy. And based on the last accusation, without any further investigation, the child was removed from Marta's house, and then they were placed supervised visitation, and forensic evaluation was ordered for Marta and the father.
Okay, and so we went through it, and Dr. Gutt, he makes close to $300,000 a year, and basically what happens oftentimes with child support is they put it into a calculator. Every state has its own calculator, but they take your income, his income, and it's very cut and dry. And so before you filed for child support, you, by agreement, am I right, Marta? By agreement between you and him, had physical custody, he had visitation, but you primarily were taking care of her. And you filed for child support, which I think worked out, and this is just the calculator. It has nothing to do with you. It's based on his income and your income. It came out to about $3,500 a month, which is significant, though not if you're making $300,000. And it was the very next day. What did he do the very next day? Or actually, I think later that day, what did he do?
Same day.
The same day. What did he do?
The same day, he filed application for custody and submitted fraudulent affidavit with fraudulent statements. And that was when I had to hire a lawyer and where the thing started spinning.
Okay, now how long had you guys had a custody arrangement? And this happened in October of 2019. How long had you had a custody arrangement up to October of 2019?
For a year. It was
Oh.
going on for a year. And I was concerned because my daughter was saying things like, "Mommy, you are not gonna be my mommy one day." And I'm like, "What?" And she was
Mhm.
4. Daddy said that because you have problems with the head. And
Mhm.
I was shocked. So my child already started being brainwashed. She was
Mhm.
saying she's on daddy's team, not my team. All of this
Mhm.
has different teams. So I decided to file for custody to seal the arrangement that we have legally.
Mhm. Okay, now prior to that though, had he ever gone to court and questioned your ability to be a mother?
No,
Had he
absolutely not. He was very happy.
called, had he
So
called had he called CPS, the police?
nope.
All right, so either it's a giant coincidence that he suddenly determined that you're a bad mother, or his determination that you were a bad mother was a direct result of him finding out that he'd have to pay over $40,000 a year in child support. And that's entirely based on his ability. He makes a lot of money. So he's of course going to pay more than someone who only makes $50,000 a year. Am I right? Do I have that correct?
Yeah, it was extremely obvious that's what he did. And I was expecting that family court judges can determine that, can see the pattern, but they
And they
haven't.
didn't. And they didn't. Am I right? And I'm going to get that the report back up. And so what initially, what did he suggest was wrong with you as a parent? What was the first accusation?
I cannot really go into details, the custody details. I did talk about the financial part and things before the custody, but what's happening right in the custody, I'm not allowed to go into details. But what I can tell you, how the Richmond Family Court violates laws and rules,
Mm-hmm.
which, with my experience, like I said, I thought the judges
Mm-hmm.
can make judgment call based on the facts.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't. And they have not made decisions based on facts or evidence. They
Mm-hmm.
have solely made decision or based on hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
So the time that my child was kidnapped legally, I was blindsided completely, and there was no evidence of abuse and neglect against me. However, there was in the past, and I cannot say that, not against me. And yeah, the court notoriously ignores my applications and my evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And the court signs every one of his requests without even hearing. So it's just so completely discriminatory and biased. And I believe from watching other moms, the bias is he's more money making spouse.
Okay.
He's a teacher, and I'm an immigrant with the accent that I make enough money to live decently, but not anything
Right.
compared
And
to.
What's your profession?
I am a registered nurse for 20 years. I've been serving ill people, and nobody
And you're
ever questioned my license.
gainfully employed. You don't make as much as him, but you
Right.
make more than enough to make sure that your daughter's taken care of. And I don't think you are bound by it. And before I ask you other questions, you're not just saying that you attended court hearings with your sister, am I right?
Yes, I did. Not all of them, but I did. And yeah.
All right. So based on what you saw, is court the way you saw it, like on TV? Is it like Law and Order? One side presents evidence, the other side challenges evidence. They both issue of closing argument? Is that what happened? When
No.
you, no, what did you
No.
see? What did you see?
It was like, it was a joke. Like everything is, whatever is brought up by Marta or by her attorney, most of the things get objected and, turned away. When the other party was questioning me, it was nonsense. They were asking me literally my sister's resume, from what month and date she worked where 10 years ago, and where she lived, what address 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And I told them I am not her secretary to keep dates of her employment and living. I don't remember my own dates, date to date, but
Right.
this was the hearing. So what? It doesn't matter, what
Right.
kind of.
In criminal court, that would probably be dismissed by an objection to relevance. And do you remember if there was an objection made by her attorney?
I don't remember. I think that there were some objections. I can't recall because it was dragging for a year and a half.
All right, so let's talk about that. So you had a hearing that you actually think you were a witness for how long?
For a year and a half.
All right, now before people want to make sure everyone understands, you weren't a witness day after day for a year and a half. The reason it went on for a year and a half is you would be a witness for one day, then they would adjourn, and then wait a month and a half, 2 months till the next hearing. Am I right?
Yeah, and then in between they were constantly being canceled.
Okay, and so this hung over, you being on the stand hung over you for a year and a half, and then you would testify, and you may not testify for a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months later. So you probably don't even recall what you were testifying about, and this is what passes for due process. And can you imagine if you're charged with a crime and your star witness is on the stand and they adjourn and they say, okay, we'll be back in 2 months, and then they testify for another day and it's another 3 months, and that would never happen in criminal court. Now, I think you talked about it a little bit, but your sister was accused of 3 separate things. Well, in order for Dr. Gutt to make the argument that they should switch custody, what was the first accusation he made?
Well, initially the mental health problems. He was claiming she's mentally unstable.
All right, but before the child, so she was perfectly mentally stable before the calculator came out and he found out he'd have to pay $3,500 a month. He never said Marta was mentally unstable when he agreed. And Marta, just so the audience understands again, before October of 2019, you got custody by agreement, meaning the two of you worked out an agreement. He was fine with you having your daughter most of the time, right? Never said you were too mentally ill to have your daughter then, right?
Never.
The mental illness just comes out right as soon as he finds out that over $40,000 per year he'd have to give you in child support, which again is a lot. Well, when you make 300,000, close, he's not quite 300, but when you make that much, it's not even necessarily that much. And what was another allegation you remember them making against your sister?
Later, he filed a police report for trespassing and made her arrested. And then later it continued as he was having a order of protection against her for whatever reason. There was really no reason because she's a sweet, kind person with no violence, no problems, never been in jail, never had anything to do with police. And then he managed to manipulate the system based on lies and manipulations to put her in jail. And what he could do is either to make her lose the child, you need to be mentally ill, you need to be a criminal or a drug addict. She was none of those. She was a wonderful mother that I
Right,
take
and
exactly.
he was able to do this without a full hearing. Now, Marty, you've been arrested how many times?
So I think it was about 3 or 4 times, and
All right, we'll get to that, but before we get to that, you have, I think she's called a referee. Her name is McFarland is the last name. What is her first name? Janet McFarland.
Ireland, yes.
All right, so she's pretty notorious. I wanted to get this up before we, this is from another case. And so what you're seeing here is a contempt of court hearing. And the gentleman at this point, I'm gonna read through it. So well, I'm asking you now, this is McFarland. I'm asking you now, what would it take to resolve this one contempt issue? And he says, nothing. I'm looking for a finding of contempt on the record. I feel like that's the only way. And the judge, okay, but what do you want? If I find contempt, what are you asking that to be done? If you find contempt, I don't know. I assume it's going to affect the custody arrangement somehow. And she responds, no, contempt does not affect the custody arrangement in this matter because that's not before me. So what are you looking for? Because you think she violated visitation. So what are you looking for? You looking to make up a few visits. So she's making it seem like, okay, he missed a couple of visits. So if you scroll down, here it is again. You know what I'm saying, okay?
Out for 28 months, so it wasn't just
yeah, 28 months. And she says, what do you want me to do? Make up a few visits. And he was under the false impression that you find somebody in contempt for not letting you see your child for 28 months, that somehow that will affect custody. And so she's very unfeeling, has no empathy in that particular case. What are some adjectives you'd describe when you were in front of her?
So she was very nonchalant about 28 months, right? Couple visits you're gonna make up. And the same in my matter. She violated my freedom of religion. She told me to pick between Christmas and New Year's Eve, even though Christmas belonged to me. And she seemed like has no compassion, no connection with humans. She's always angry, screaming, yelling, throwing people out, throwing tantrums. She has no children herself, and she ordered my daughter on New Year's Eve to come to his house at 11 p.m.
Okay, so you basically ordered you to completely destroy your own New Year's plans to make sure that he had your daughter at 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve. And how old was she at this point? Your daughter, I mean?
She was 5.
So he ordered you to get a 5-year-old to him at 11 when she would be asleep.
6. Yeah, so there's like outrageousness after outrageousness. And yeah, she appointed her friend to be a child's attorney, and there was a conflict of interest. So I wrote letter to court administration and got her removed as a judge.
Okay, and I don't know if either of you can answer this, but McFarland, that is, at one point issued a temporary order for sole custody for Dr. Gutt. But then she scheduled a hearing for about a month and a half later where the order would be revisited. And the order really didn't state why she was doing it. Can either of you say what happened at the next hearing?
So the order wasn't dropped. The forensic evaluation was done on both parents, and the forensic stated that Martha should have a full custody. The father lies without blinking of an eye. He can look straight at you and lie. And that Martha is a fitted mother. There's any mental health issues that could be a problem for carrying all the accusations of Manchester, bipolar, and
all right, so it sounds like this guy found that all of the accusations were bad. Did they then switch custody back? Oh my God, we made a mistake. In fact, was Janet McFarland presiding over the next hearing?
And no, she was not anymore on the next hearing. And then there was a new judge who initially said, I don't know the case. and the next case will be in 2 or 3 months. Then looking forward, he didn't have time to review it, and he's going to wait for a trial to open forensic evaluation until the forensic is on the witness stand. Forensic was not on the witness stand for another year and a half.
All right, so what they did is what I would call the judicial version of a bait and switch. So what this Judge McFarland did was issue an order that doesn't seem that bad. Yeah, she gave Tom sole custody, but we're going to take care of this in 6 weeks. And then she quietly goes away. A new judge comes in and says, I'm not ready to do anything. I don't know anything. And then he just keeps pushing it back. So this thing that was supposed to be resolved in 6 weeks is still ongoing over a year later. And by the way, have you had this custody trial yet?
So the trial is ongoing, and I cannot provide too many details of what's happening.
All right,
but
I
in
think
general,
you can.
there's
you-
complete violation of due process, complete violation of human rights, complete violation of constitutional rights. And this pattern is not just happening to me. This happens to a lot of parents and a lot of children. And we have a big problem. And thank you for describing it as much as you do, because we need this to come out. People need to understand. I went to the family court thinking that this is institution designed to obey the laws, to uphold the laws, to review evidence and make the decision based on evidence. And exactly opposite happens. So I do not recommend anyone to file application in any family court.
I agree.
All they do is destroy families, and lawyers make money, the children attorneys make money, the visiting supervising services make money. Our
guardian ad
children
litem.
are a meal ticket for them.
Right, the guardian,
Outrageous.
I agree with you. The one caveat is, unfortunately, there are certain types of people who, if you don't take it to court, they will run all over you. Even court orders don't necessarily help. But I agree, if you can keep it out of court, you should. But there are certain people who it will never work outside of court, because they won't follow, if it's their own rules, they won't follow any rules. Now, you've been arrested multiple times. So walk the audience through the first arrest, and then what happened, where'd you wind up? And as much as you're comfortable speaking, what happened while you were in prison?
So I went to speak to the father about the forensic that recommended full custody for me, to find a way to share the custody in a way that was recommended, because supposedly 90% of time, the way the forensic recommends, it's independent, contractor, hired by the court. That's what the judge will go by, because this person has time to review everything, and they do it and thoroughly. The judges don't. So therefore, the expert is helpful in this big decision. So when I went there, I had a conversation with him, and I left. Then all of a sudden, I get a call from NYPD that I allegedly trespassed something that's not even his property. His parents own it. And then I've never heard anything about order protection. I'm like, how does it make sense? We have a child together, how we should not communicate. So apparently I could communicate with him. There was a carve out, but I didn't understand everything. So he was trapping me in violating order protection, and ultimately.
Well, hold on. I think, when did the order of protection come about?
In 2021, May 18.
All right, so that precede this incident where you went to talk to him?
No, I went to talk to him. There was no
All
order
right, so he got an
After
order.
I went to talk
So
to him,
let's, hold
that's
on.
when he got it.
So the audience doesn't get confused. So you went to talk to him, and everything, when you left, you didn't think anything was wrong, right? You talked to him, you guys had a discussion, then you leave. NYPD called you and they said you'd been trespassing, right?
Actually, what they told me that he has some concerns and they would like to have a conversation about it. Okay. So I went there with my dog. Turned out my dog has no place to go because they're arresting me without even hearing my side of the story.
All right, so they called you, they said that we have some concerns. When you got to the precinct, they arrested you. What did they arrest you for?
Well, I didn't find out what they're arresting me for until detective arrived, and detective told me, and I told him that he's not a property owner. I have invitation because I live there, and also that this is done maliciously to destroy me.
What
Family
was
court
what was the arrest for? What was the crime that you committed?
trespass.
So you had a conversation, you left. After you left, he claimed that you trespassed on his property, which, as you said, is even technically not even owned by him or by
Right.
his parents.
Correct.
Okay, trespassing doesn't seem that harsh. So what happened after you were arrested for trespassing? They just let you leave, or what happened next?
I mean, he started texting me about our daughter, so I thought, okay, maybe it's normal. We need to communicate about our daughter. Then all of a sudden, after we communicate for 2 weeks, I responded back, and I was arrested for responding back, allegedly violating order of protection.
All right, when hold on. I think the audience is going to get confused. When did this order of protection come about?
On May 18, 2021.
When did the incident where he accused you of trespassing happen?
May 6, 2021.
All right, so he got an order of protection after. So would it be fair to say he used this trespassing arrest to get the order of protection?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and then but it had a carve out, as you said. So you weren't allowed to communicate except about your daughter.
Well, I don't know what this order had. The judge told me I can talk about my daughter, but this wasn't written down.
Okay, so you're communicating with him about your daughter, and then the next thing you know, you're being arrested for violating the order of protection. Am I right?
Yes.
And so as a result of that, where did you wind up having to go?
So ultimately, he had created those traps so I can violate order of protection more than once. And eventually I was arrested to the point for allegedly contempt of the court. I was asking questions about why am I here? And they placed me in Rikers Island for 50 days.
Wait, hold on. Before all of these things happened, tell everyone your long criminal record before all of this.
I had no criminal record. Nobody called 911 on me. I am licensed professional for 20 years, giving people.
And you wound up in Rikers Island.
Handling serious matters, life in ICU. And the law says that in family dispute, you issue summons if there is trespass. But in this case, I was arrested. And the reason I believe that is because the detective that he took to do this has been sued multiple times in New York State for planting false evidence.
Found some dirty cops to do his dirty work.
He was putting marijuana in people's car and then telling them they're arrested for that. So meticulously took him 2 weeks to find this guy, right? And that's how I got arrested. Okay.
What happened to you when you wound up in Rikers Island?
Well, it's a horrible place. The conditions are inhumane. I was forced to eat food with mold. There was no warm water for 10 days in November. The gangs are running the jail. The guards are, leaving the floor and leaving the place, and people get beaten up and hurt. People get murdered there. I mean, it's a disaster.
Okay. And you were assaulted as well?
I was assaulted, and the serious assault was a fracture my face, and there is currently a lawsuit in federal court against DOC for that. And multiple smaller assaults, sexual advancements, unwanted, people walking into the shower when you want to shower. Just it's horrific. I mean, I'm writing a book. I have a book writer interested in describing that. So
okay, all right. And then all of this criminal stuff, it has been resolved. What is the final outcome of the trespassing, the violation of order of protection? What is the final outcome?
So final outcome on August 14, 2023, everything was dismissed, sealed, order for protection was vacated because there was no evidence of crime. There was no
All
crime.
right, so you were arrested multiple times, thrown into Rikers Island based on so-called crimes that have now been determined to be completely fabricated. Am I getting that right?
Right.
Right.
So this in
All
this
right.
country, you were promised to be not guilty until proven otherwise. That's why
Right.
I came to this country. But exactly opposite happens. You are not guilty. There is no proof.
Mhm.
And
And
I
you were,
served the jail sentence.
right. And how much time did you spend in jail for this?
50 days in Rikers
50 days.
alone, but plus
50 days in Rikers for made-up crimes. Last question, you are hoping to do a class action lawsuit. What's the deal with that?
so because I'm a fighter and the harder you hit me, the stronger I become.
Mhm.
I am looking to file class action against
What do you believe is happening in the court that you'd file a class action? What do you believe you can prove?
there is a common theme of less money making spouse being accused falsely of things and not being able to defend themselves, being pro se, and losing the custody of the children to the more money making spouse. And
Right.
the more money making spouse often is a male because we female
Right. Let's make
sacrifice our careers and income to take care of our children. And then when it comes to the custody, the children are attached to the primary caregiver, but yet the courts take them away suddenly and give them in the care of the person that didn't take care of them because they have more money.
money.
And
All
hire
right.
babysitters to take care of the children, right? Instead
All
of
right.
the mom.
All right. And we've only got about 5 minutes left. Anything else you wanted to add?
I hope for justice because I'm concerned about my niece living with the person, the father who was capable of doing this to the mother. He doesn't love his daughter. If you're able to do this to the mother of your child, there's no love. He just loves money and power. And he was also when I was on the witness stand, I testified he was drinking and driving with the child on board. That wasn't taken into consideration. This behavior continues, so she's at risk with him because of that. There was incident he was choking my sister, and there were also incidents that the child described to me as well as to the therapist that his new girlfriend, at that time new wife, were throwing dresses, shoes at each other, calling each other's name, and that the child was afraid that Justina are gonna kill her one day or kill daddy, something like that. So the child lives in fear and no one is looking at it. There was no reason for removing the child from my sister's house. And now the manipulation continues and he's just trying to ruin her to prove the point that are being disproved that it's not truth in multiple levels. So I hope for someone finally helping this poor little girl before tragedy happens.
I've one last, Marta, in the last year, how many times have you seen your daughter?
This year, I should say, right, 2023, I saw my daughter 3 times this year.
3 times, and you used to take care of her almost all the time, right? So she's gone from you being her primary caretaker to you almost never seeing her.
It's me now.
Right.
The
All right.
nation was completed and successful.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.